Hello, Jonathan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for doing this interview with us. We really appreciate it. Now, we will be talking about two different things. We'll be talking about grad school, and then we're going to move on to the event that happened this past Saturday, Walk for Education.
Okay.
But first, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Jonathan Reid from Memphis, Tennessee. Currently majoring in graduate student. Former undergraduate student here at the university. So continuing my education as a fall.
Okay, so how many years have you been here again?
7 years.
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah, you're old.
Okay.
Okay, now, when should incoming undergraduate students begin thinking about grad school?
I'd say as incoming incoming undergraduate students. So once they step foot on campus, they should be thinking about long-term goals, identifying interests and programs which may help, which they can extend into a graduate career.
Okay. Why is graduate school important from your perspective?
From my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
well, first off, it's important to continue your education. The more education that you have, the more access that you have to resources, which are available not only, at institutions, but also in other institutions outside of higher education. So very important to access those resources. So the degree enables students to access more resources.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If someone was interested in starting grad school, where would they start? Like, what do they start?
I highly recommend starting with a professor.
Mm-hmm.
So that means having a conversation with the professor, which engages your interest.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have an interest in English or a specific type of literature. Engage a professor in a conversation about literature and how can I actually maybe reach the level where maybe I want to teach. Let's say a student is in engineering and would like to teach engineering or would like to learn more about engineering. Ask the professor about opportunities to engage in undergraduate research, which may enable that student to maybe assume a graduate position later on down the line.
Okay. What else could students do to help themselves as far as grad school is concerned?
As far as grad school, I say remain focused as far as from an academic standpoint. Make the right connections. So that means, once again, developing relationships with professors, utilizing career services. They have opportunities available for internships. And also for select groups, may be able to utilize EAP and McNair, which is it's a pre-graduate school program preparing specialized groups for graduate study.
Okay. Someone may come to you and ask, do you have to stay at the same university when you want to go to grad school? Like, if I want to go to grad school, do I need to stay here?
Not necessarily. I highly recommend actually looking at programs across the nation and now becoming the world. There's opportunities available to study any and everywhere. And just finding the right fit for you. Finding a program where I guess the faculty are supportive of your interest and actually the cohort or the student group that you come in with, they're actually supportive of your interest also.
Okay, well, there are a lot of scholarships available for undergrads, but are there any scholarships available for people who want to do grad school?
There are, and I highly recommend utilizing those scholarships that are available online. So you can actually search online for available scholarships. Like for instance, there's someone in my program who has a Gates Millennium Scholarship. This is a fellowship which actually pays the student not only out-of-pocket money, but also a stipend, or actually it will cover education costs, right? And so that's not even necessarily counting an assistantship, or fellowship from an institution. So let's say a student has an assistantship, and my assistantship is with the Student Success Center. So they cover the cost of my education, and they pay me a monthly stipend, right? So a student can have that on top of an outside fellowship to pay for graduate study. So you could be getting paid, sometimes from $10,000 to $30,000, $40,000 a year to study as a graduate student.
Okay. I know you said talking to a professor would help when you're starting the process, but what else? What are things that you have to do? Like, are there any tests?
There are.
Applications?
Identifying your specific interest. So let's say for someone in law, the LSAT, preparation for that. If you're at an undergraduate institution, let's say in particular UT, contact someone in the law school, maybe a law professor, sit down and have a conversation with them, about the LSAT strategies, to approach the LSAT. Let's say someone in graduate school, like myself, I took the GRE, I've also McNair, enabled me to have GRE prep courses, so that prepared me for the GRE. And then contacting specific graduate programs in order to find out the required GPA, not necessarily, well, GPA and GRE score for that program. So.
Okay. Is there a limit to the amount of education one single individual can receive? Can you become too educated?
Absolutely not. Every day is a learning experience in and outside of the classroom.
Okay. Last question. What kind of GPA should a student have in order to think that, in order for them to know that they have a chance in getting to grad school?
Okay, so I'd highly recommend contacting professors of desired programs. So the professor will give you more information on GPA requirements. And even beyond the stated requirement, just building a relationship with professors. Finding parallels in your interest and the professor's interest. Establishing a relationship so that the professor will understand the importance of holistic review, meaning the entire body of work the student brings to the table. So let's say you have a lower GPA than maybe the stated requirement. All right. There's some other aspect of you as an individual which will help you get into that program, which they may need. So your GPA may be your weakest point, your weakest point in some cases. But let's say you have an amazing GRE score. Well, let's say you have an amazing resume with amazing experience. That may actually help compensate for the lack of GPA. If that makes any sense.